Ask yourself today, how did I make this happen? This is huge for me. It's so important. When we ask ourselves, how did I make this happen? It can be incredibly empowering and offer so much insight, and not just when things are challenging. People will encourage you, well, you got to look at your involvement in this when you're encountering something very challenging, when you're going through something very difficult. Classic example, having a terrible time in a relationship, or your career's not where you want, or this or that, and you're bemoaning, you're frustrated, all these things. They all make so much sense. We all can relate to that. And so people will say to you, and I think there's a lot of value and power in that, particularly if they choose the time and place, hey, what was your role in this? Take some responsibility. How did you make this happen? But it's equally important when stuff that's going along for you strikes you as positive and uplifting. You're really enjoying a situation, because we don't always give ourselves enough credit. We think something fell into our lap. But in fact, much of the time, we had an involvement in that as well. So it's important to ask, how did you make that happen? Now, the reason why today this is really on my mind is because I was talking with a friend yesterday, and, he is doing what we've all done a million times. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. So not learning. And learning is something that really intrigues me. I don't claim to have a whole lot of answers, but I'm definitely a student. Paradoxically, student of the whole learning thing. So what is undermining our learning? And there's a bunch of factors that do that. There are a bunch of things that are going on depending on the person, context, and all these things, situation. When you or I do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. First, we are unaware. We're lacking an awareness, first, typically, of our own involvement. How are you making this happen? Now, it can be really interesting, because you can have a fight with someone and then hopefully, wisely, gently, ask yourself, okay, what was my part in that? I played some part. If that person had, taken that same attitude, perspective, whatever, argument to somebody else, they may well have responded differently. So what was my part in that? Okay, so trying to take responsibility is one thing. The other thing, though, and this is very common, is people are not aware that they are even doing the same thing over and over again. It's incredible things in my life. How many times, dozens of times with some things that were painful and difficult before, as they say, the penny dropped, before I realized, wait a second, not only have I done this same thing before, I've done this a bunch of times before. And that can totally change your life. It's incredible. So it's taking responsibility. It's asking the question, how did I make this happen? Now, what can be really interesting, too, is when you apply it to something crazy and over the top, okay? Something absurd, because this whole thing is a psychological, emotional, and spiritual exercise. It's a workout. Not a workout for the past, though we can start to see the past in a different way, but a workout for the next time the shit slides sideways between you and another person, whatever. This is all preparing for the next time, so that you can hopefully be more powerful and take more responsibility and learn from your past and your path. Learn from these things if we can. So you kind of can go, okay, let's start with something right over the top. Okay, you hear about a bank robbery. A bank robbery went on. And if you ask yourself, okay, how did I make this happen? It might strike you as absurd, but if you get in the habit of asking this question in a situation where it seems pretty clear you had nothing to do with it, you'll find it a bit easier when it comes closer and closer to home. And what you will find is, if you're looking to take responsibility in some small part, particularly as a member of society, or maybe a member of a part of a family, or being one part of a larger staff at work, when you start asking yourself, okay, how did I in some way, if not create this, how did I allow this to happen? Then it gets really interesting. Then you start increasing your sensitivity, your awareness of your involvement in things. And that will powerfully sort of work against your lack of awareness of your involvement in things. Doing the same thing over and over again. First, we're not aware of it. Second, we don't want to take responsibility for it. Third, and this is the thing too, we classically and often, all too often, it's the devil known, right? We'd rather hole up in something and feel sometimes indignant and righteous rather than change things. A sense of justice can also really impair people's learning. They go through situations or they do things over and over again, and the idea is that they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing their role because that's what's fair. That's what's right. They're not going to back down. They're not going to be the weak one. They're not going to labels, justifications, all hurt and anger, expressed in really narrow, inflexible ways that are profoundly influencing and undermining and diminishing your ability to learn, your ability to change. I've been there, and I'm there today. I mean, some days I feel like I have a better handle on this stuff than other days. But I still get surprised, rest assured. I still get triggered, and in just a moment, I'll see all these sort of almost a shadowy, really negative list of possible ways to respond in this moment right now. I'll see it flit by, and blessedly, luckily, I'm learning how to not take those paths and try to find other ways, right? More peaceful, more inclusive, more responsible. But I do encourage you to ask yourself the question today. It's an interesting question for me, at least. What did I do to make this happen?